I wanted to do a special Python project for Pi Day because there aren't too many days of the year when it's cool to like math and we celebrate all things math. So what better excuse than Pi Day? If you have a microbit, then you're going to be able to do this for free on CodeSpace. So you're going to go to the CodeSpace link right here at the Furia Labs website. Now make sure if you haven't used CodeSpace before, first of all, you're going to have to log in using a Google account. And then when you get here, you want to read all of these things. Don't just click next, but I know this pretty well, so I'm going to skip through and cheat and just click next on everything. And then hopefully you're not looking at our end projects because we're going to make a new project. So we don't need this teaching panel because we're doing our own project. So go ahead and hide the teaching panel and make sure that your microbit is connected. We should have this up here. And if you don't have the firmware downloaded, because this is a new microbit or one that you didn't get from Furia Labs, make sure you do that. And if you have any trouble, it's just a couple steps and you can use the troubleshooting. It'll just take you a minute or two. Okay, so now we need to name our program. Always name your program something that makes sense. So I'm going to name mine Pi Day Calculator. I'm going to give you a couple options of what kind of calculator you're going to do. So we're just going to call it calculator for right now. All right, so the first thing we need to do is import our microbit library. So start with from microbit import. And then we're going to define our variables. So you got to think about the thing that you need to calculate. So we know if we're trying to work with circles, obviously we need to know pi. And since it's Pi Day, we'll round it to just 2 decimal places, 3.14. And let's do radius. If we know the radius, then we can find the diameter, so we don't need to do both. So let's just start with our radius as 0. And then we'll find area later on. So again, we'll just start at 0 because we're going to change it anyway. If we have time, we can do circumference. Am I the only person that says circumference to figure out what circumference is? How to spell it? All right, so those are our variables. Those are the things we're going to be using. Now we need to decide what we're going to calculate. So you can either calculate the area or the circumference, or if you have time, you can do both. So you can call this one area calculator and just add area, and then copy the whole thing and change it to circumference calculator and do that one separate. But we're going to write both of them here so that you can try either one, see which one you want to do. So let's create our functions. First thing, let's define our area function, and we know that area is pi r squared, right? So radius times pi. Now if I just leave it like that, the microbit's going to calculate this, but it's not going to tell me what the answer is. So we're going to add a return at the beginning of this so that it actually tells us what the answer or the solution is going to be. And then I'm going to do circumference as well. And we can just modify our code just a little bit to show this one. So circumference is pi times diameter, or radius times 2, right? Because that's diameter, times pi. And we've got a return on that. All right, so now we've set up our variables, we've created our functions, we are ready to go. So when do I want my calculator to work? All the time. So I'm going to start with a while true loop, and I'm going to use my button presses to decide what the radius is going to be. So it's just going to be like a little calculator. So if button A was pressed, then I'm going to add 1 to my radius. Now my radius is currently 0. So each time I press button A, I want to increase the radius by 1. So when button A is pressed, it's going to do radius is radius plus 1. And then I want the microbit to tell me what my current radius is so I don't have to keep track of those button presses. So I'm going to do a display scroll. Now we know that display scroll only shows string type So if you haven't done much Python coding before, a string is words. And right now we have a radius, which is an integer, and it's not going to scroll an integer. So we're going to change that and we're going to convert it to a string like this. So we're going to say the string is the radius. And then I want to display clear. I want to clear my display so that I don't get confused where I am. All right, so that's button A. Now we could just be happy with this, but I want to be a little bit more specific. So this is an extension. If you want to fast forward a couple seconds and not do this part, that's okay too. I'm going to do an else if button B was pressed. So what could we do on button B? I could clear my variables and start over, but I have a reset button for that too. So I'm going to make this increase the radius by tenths. Oh, plus 0.1. So button A is going to increase my radius by 1 whole. Button B is going to increase my radius by 1/10. So if you're working with decimals, then you can at least round it to the tenths and get a little bit better. And we're going to do the same display. Scroll. So it's going to scroll across the screen and convert it to a string. And display clear. So now would be a really good time. We just did a bunch of coding and we haven't even tested it yet. So you should have your microbit connected by now, and you're going to click the run program, and let's see if I have any errors. No errors. Okay, so I am pressing button A and it says 1, and now I press button B and it says 1.1. Yay, that's what I wanted it to do, and it worked. All right, so now that's great. I've told it, oh yeah, sorry. Always tells me that. Stop running. Okay. It's telling me what my radius is, or I'm telling it what my radius is, but I want it to tell me what the area of a circle with the given radius is. So I'm going to use my accelerometer and shake it, and when I shake it, it's going to tell me the area of that circle. So I need another else if. I'm going to use my accelerometer. You do have to spell that one right. And we're going to check for the gesture, and I know that the gesture I want, parenthesis, single quote, I'm checking for a shake. Okay, so if it's shaken, I want it to scroll my area. Okay, well, we know that same thing as before, area is also an integer, so we need to convert that to a string. So it's a function, so I'm calling right here, this is calling the function area. This is telling it that I want to convert area to a string. But if I did that, it would just say the number. I want it to say area equals. So I am going to put in front of that a string, area equals. Okay, so I have a string plus an integer that I've converted to a string, and since I'm a math teacher, you have to do units. So that's going to be another string in quotation marks, units squared. Okay, units squared. So pause and test again. I'm going to just press, help if I hit run. I'm going to press the A button once. Oh, look at that. I have an error. Okay, good. It has no, would help if I spelled gesture right. I'm sure some of you noticed that and knew it was going to give me that error. Okay, so now no errors, but I haven't pressed any buttons yet. So I'm going to press button A once. So my radius is 1, because I can do 1 times 1 times 3.14, and I'll know if I'm right or not. And it's scrolling area equals 3.14 units squared. Yay, it worked. Okay, so I didn't really put any comments in here. So right here, yes, I'm stopping you. Okay, right here we are telling microbit what our area is using button presses. And then down here we are microbits, not we, the microbit is calculating the area and displaying it. Okay, so I'm going to do the circumference as well, okay, but I'm just going to do it down here, and if I try to test it, it's going to get confused, right? If I shake it and I'm saying do the area but also do the circumference. So I'm just going to copy this, Command C or Control C if you're on a PC, and we're going to calculate the circumference. All right, so everything is changing except I don't want it to display scroll area. I'm just going to do a capital C because circumference is really long. And I'm going to change this. And of course, I'm going to change this. Should I say U or units? I'll just say U. It's shorter. Okay, and just while I'm testing it, I'm going to cut Command X. Cut this so I can run it. And this time I'm going to remember it's 1 times 2 times pi. So you know your answer, if your radius is 1, your answer should be a little bit more than 6. So I've got 1 and I shake it and I have a variable that I have not defined. Why did I put radius times r? Radius times 2. I bet some of you saw that too and you knew I was going to get an error. All right, let's try it again. Run. 1 is my radius. I shake it. C equals 6.28 units. Yay! It worked in the end. So I don't try to edit out my mistakes because those are things that we all do. We make mistakes, we make typing errors, or we don't read something correctly, or we forget to tell it to stop running while we change things. So I want you to know how to deal with those kind of things. And so once again, this was the CodeSpace Python editor. You could see how easy it is to run things and everything's saved in my Google Drive. If you're interested in getting a full version, go to the Furia Labs website and talk to them. And definitely please post your projects or your students on Twitter and tag at Furia Labs, and of course, hashtag Pi Day. And if you're a kid watching this and you want to learn more about this, then please contact us and I'm sure we can hook you up with something really cool. Bye.